Now, our next title is the sequel to a game that at first I struggled with, but then fell in love with the combat. That game was Mount and Blade. Coming up next, we have a little intro video to the sequel, Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord. Let's take a look. Join me in welcoming to the stage from Taleworlds Community Manager, Frank Elliott. Frank, it's so good to see you again.
Hi,
hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Now, Frank, I just want you to start off by talking a little bit about what is Mount and Blade for those who are unfamiliar.
Okay, to summarize very, very quickly, Mount and Blade is an action, RPG, strategy, simulation, sandbox, very like amalgam of all those genres. And what you are is essentially, you're like just a regular person in the world. You can become a lord, you can rule your own faction, you fight in the battles alongside your troops when you're commanding them as well. There's politics, there's trade. It's very much a feudal simulation game, if you will.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I brought up the combat earlier. I mean, a lot of games have you hit the button to do the punch.
Nice.
But I mean, in Mount and Blade, it's much more physical, much more involved. And I mean, here, this is the big news of Mount and Blade 2, the Siege. Walk me through what we're seeing here.
Okay, well, this is our Siege gameplay, and really this is kind of one of the areas of the game where players wanted to see most improvement from us. So what we did is we worked a lot, we added in loads of different mechanics, so we've got things like destruction now, you've got ballistae, mangonels, and obviously as the player you can just push your soldier aside, grab one, fire right at that battlement, blast a piece of it off, and you're essentially very, very involved in the fight. We have like multiple lanes of attack now as well, and you get to deploy, choose how you approach each castle.
And right now, how many players are there on each side, or excuse me, humans on each side in this fight?
Well, yeah, essentially this is one of our single-player sieges, and we have like 350 guys on our side, and the defenders have a bit less, on 150. So there's about 500 total, all operating individually, acting independently, using their own attacks and blocks. But we can push that a little bit further in the final game, we think.
And how does a siege evolve over time? What's the beginning, middle, and end of a siege?
Well, essentially, you're doing a siege to take over some land, right? Exploit the natural resources and sort of gain more money because you sort of expanded your faction. So you spend some time on the campaign map bombarding, doing some damage to the castle, and then you get into the fight and have this huge, dramatic, climactic battle against the enemy.
I mean, I understand that so much of the inspiration from the game is just historical research. How does that factor into the siege?
That's exactly right. I mean, that's a huge part of the way we design the game. We actually look at history, we look at what worked, and also why it worked. So you see these murder holes up here. I mean, like getting into a castle is supposed to be a real, like, massive pain, right? It's a really hard thing to do. And so once you're trying to smash down that gate, you've got the defenders from above, like throwing rocks, throwing jars of oil all over you, and you're having a really hard time fighting this very historically themed castle.
I mean, the scope of it is just incredible. And I mean, I know with all the intricate systems, not just the combat, but the political, the economic system, that modding is a really big part of Mount and Blade as well.
Absolutely. I mean, modding has been part of Mount and Blade right from the very start. I mean, from the very beta of the first game, we had modders coming in, and it's really sort of helped to fuel our community growth and helped to actually kind of fuel development in a way as well. We've taken a lot of ideas from the modding scene. So in Bannerlord, we tried to give back to the community because we love them so much. And what we're going to do is we're going to give them all of the tools which we use for development, and also we're going to allow them to combine mods. So someone might make a mod which changes something about diplomacy, someone might add a skill, and then another person adds maybe like a new weapon or an armor. And players can actually grab all of those mods, combine them into one,
awesome.
And play them in the game. Yeah.
Well, for any of you who have not played Mount and Blade, I personally strongly recommend it. Frank, thanks so much for coming out and talking about Mount and Blade 2.